Want to stay up to date with everything that's happening on the show? Or do you have a story that you'd like to submit for one of our Listener Stories episodes? You can get in touch with the show via the website at www.hauntedukpodcast.com, on Instagram at hauntedukpodcast, on X at hauntedukpod, or you can email us at contactus@hauntedukpodcast.com. We're also on Facebook and TikTok. And if you want to support the show, you can do it via either Patreon or Ko-fi. Both platforms have exactly the same content, but work in slightly different ways. One of the advantages of Patreon is its sleek user interface, but if you want to avoid those pesky additional charges Apple, Google, and Patreon apply to your subscription, then why not give Ko-fi a try? Simply open a browser window and type ko-fi/Haunted UK Podcast. That's Ko-fi/Haunted UK Podcast, and you'll soon find us. Whichever platform you choose, we're sure you'll enjoy the bonus content. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the episode. This is the Haunted UK Podcast's Short Haunts. Welcome, dear listeners, to our series of short haunts. A shot of scary, just for you. So grab a hot chocolate, maybe a tea, maybe something stronger, because this is Haunted UK Podcast's Short Haunts, Doors, Locks, and Demons. What do you do when you find yourself living in a haunted house? Who do you turn to? What measures do you take to try and get control of a situation which many would find completely ridiculous? It can be so difficult to talk to people about a paranormal incident which has happened to you. Realistically, you need someone who is not only open-minded, but who is also willing to listen and in turn, try to understand what you've been through without judgment. But just imagine that you're actually living with someone who's having the same experiences, hearing the same noises, feeling the same emotions that you are. Even though you now have an ally, you're still faced with a totally unexpected scenario. The house that you're both living in is haunted. Many people try to tackle these situations in different ways. Calling in a priest to bless the house, calling in a psychic to try and get the spirit in question to cross over, performing an ad hoc exorcism. This short haunt deals with a situation just as described. Two people living in a haunted house, but not realizing it at first. But this story goes further than that, deeper. It asks the question of the witness who's been brave enough to write into the show and share their story. It asks them this: has something followed you from one place to another? Has an entity somehow attached itself to you and began the process of filling you with terror, fear, and vulnerability? There's only one person who can answer that for sure, and that person will be known as KG for the rest of this short haunt. Did KG unknowingly take a spirit from one home to another? Or was she unfortunate enough to actually move into two haunted houses? Before we get into KG's short haunt, I need to mention that Mandy, who is a huge part of the first story, sadly passed away suddenly not too long ago. KG had spoken to her over the phone in hospital and informed her that their experience was being developed into a story which would air on this podcast. It's KG's wish that this episode is dedicated to her memory. So with that said, let's hand over to KG. My name is KG, and I'm writing to you from Berlin, Germany. I've always considered myself in touch with the spirit world. I've always believed that there was a connection, that you just didn't go poof into the ether when you died, and that those you loved most would still be checking in. I also firmly believed in not-so-nice spirits, having grown up with the likes of movies such as Poltergeist, The Exorcist and more. My dad also had some very strange and somewhat disturbing experiences from his youth with an Ouija board. I was always warned not to play with the Ouija boards and had one very tense run-in with my dad. He was very upset one time when he found myself and friends playing with a board that we'd found when we were clearing out my grand's house after she died. Of course, being younger, I wouldn't just naturally listen to my dad. I still had to test those boundaries. However, up until I went to university, there were no experiences that I had that couldn't be written away without coincidence. Someone else in the house, my brother playing jokes on my friends and I, etc. But that was about to change. My first experience took place in New Concord, Ohio, USA, and it was summer before my senior year of university. 5 other friends and I rented a large house right on the edge of the campus. The house was reserved for the members of our club, and it was owned by an alumni, so we always knew the girls who had previously lived in the house, etc. Though there were 6 of us who would be living in the house come the school year, only myself and one other friend, Mandy, as we'll call her, would be living in it for the summer, as we both had jobs on or near campus. The house was 2 stories, with an unfinished basement, which was basically just good for storing old boxes and keg parties, as there was no furniture or carpet down there. The first floor contained our living room, dining room, kitchen, entryway, and a double bedroom with an ensuite bathroom, which 2 of the girls who currently were not there for summer would be sharing. Up 2 short flights of creaky stairs was the upper level, which consisted of 4 single bedrooms, 1 shared bathroom, and 1 tiny room, which was essentially a walk-in storage space, as it was too tiny for even a bed. Each of the 5 total bedrooms, double downstairs plus the 4 single rooms upstairs, had locks, which you could lock from the outside with a key, and inside by turning a deadbolt, as an extra layer of protection since so many people lived in the house. This is an important detail to remember. No one else had keys to those locks except the occupants of the bedrooms, and as I mentioned, only myself and Mandy were living there for the summer, and therefore only 2 rooms were in use and unlocked. Now, I worked nights as a waitress, usually starting at around 3 p.m. or 4 p.m, and often closing the small country kitchen restaurant up. After a short 20-minute drive, I'd usually be getting home at around 12:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. My roommate Mandy had a totally opposite schedule, working in the school's offices, so she had a typical 9 to 5 day. This means that we often didn't even cross paths, as I slept in after working so late, and she was long in bed before I got home. I'd had a particularly gruesome yet lucrative few weeks, with extra long nights due to summer tour buses coming with large parties. This meant that I was extra exhausted coming home, which in turn meant that I was extremely irritated to hear Mandy going up and down the stairs. If you remember, I mentioned that those stairs were old and creaky, with my bedroom being at the top of them. For hours at a time, After I crawled into bed, all I could hear was Mandy and these damn stairs. Too tired to get up at that moment, I decided one morning to get up early and confront her at breakfast, before she left for work, to ask her if she could be a bit quieter. I entered the dining room to find her eating some cereal, and before I could squeak out, "Hey Mandy, could you be a bit quieter at night on the stairs?" she started to speak. "KG, I know you're working a lot at night and it's probably hard to get some sleep once you get home, but can you please not go up and down the stairs so much? They're so old and creaky, and it's been waking me up every night now for weeks." As you can imagine, my eyes went wide, my mouth dropped open, and I, with a twinge of horror, said, "That's not me. That's you." We went back and forth for a minute until we realized that it was someone else, or rather, something else. All of the doors are locked at night, and I personally do this whenever I get home, and there's only the two of us in the house. Once we had this realization, the lid came off the pot, so to speak, and a whole host of strange things happened. Lights flipped on and off inadvertently, a radio switched on and off, and most horrifyingly was the experience I had in my bedroom. The club we belonged to had lots of goodies, like candles, picture frames, and other things, all with our club insignia on them, and lots of quotes on sisterhood, etc. These were passed down throughout the existence of the club. I had lots of these goodies in my room, carefully arranged as I am a bit of a neat freak. One evening, I unlocked the door to my room. Now, as I already mentioned earlier, no one else had a key to my room, and when I entered, everything seemed to be in its usual, organized place. Except every single picture frame, candle, and knick-knack was turned around, inverted, so that the phrases were now facing out, and the club letters were to the back. This affected over 10 items. I became immediately too unnerved to stay there that night, so I locked the door and left. I discussed this incident with Mandy, and we decided that if we gave the ghost a name, and maybe talked to it, maybe it wouldn't be as scary. Maybe we could make the ghost feel at home. We didn't even know if this would work, but we were ready to try anything. We decided to name her Alice, and we used her name often, to help her feel included and maybe to even make her feel like she was another roommate or a member of our club. Eventually, our other roommates moved in, and with 6 people, multiple boyfriends, and tons of friends coming in and out all the time, the incident ceased. Or we were now able to explain them away. We never heard of anyone else having any issues with Alice, but we always make sure to say hi to her whenever we're in the area. Several years after my experiences at university, I rented a townhome in Columbus. I'd just taken a new job and had some extra money, so sprung for an older but well-maintained 3-floor townhouse. It was possibly built around the 1920s or 30s, but was well-maintained and had fresh paint and carpet in the top 2 floors. The basement hadn't been remodeled and was really just used for the washer and dryer as well as storage. I'd lived in the house for about 2 years and hadn't experienced anything strange or unusual. One particularly uneventful evening, I'd finished watching a TV show in the living room and headed up the tall stairs to where the 2 bedrooms were. I got into bed and quickly fell asleep. Sometime later, I woke up, and it was completely dark. I was quite sure it must have been past 2 a.m, as I'd woken up a bit earlier to use the restroom, but now, something just didn't feel right. The air in the room was heavy, and although I knew I was alone in bed, I felt like something was hovering over me, almost lording over me, in an oppressive and dark way. The only way I can describe it was the feeling of pure evil.
Alice.
I get goosebumps just typing this out. Even after over 20 years later, I didn't want to open my eyes as I was too scared to see whatever it was in there with me. I silently started saying Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
And Our Father,
blessed art thou amongst
hoping to ward off whatever tormented spirit was
Holy
there.
Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now, and at the hour of our death. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
I worked myself up into such a panic, I literally passed out. I woke in the morning with my sheets soaked in sweat from the panic that had gripped me just a matter of hours before. But the strange thing was that I never had another bad experience in that room or anywhere else in that house. But I do know one thing for certain, and that is that I'll never forget the dark, potentially demonic presence that found its way into my room that night. All the very best, KG. And it's here that this short haunt comes to an end. But it's also where the questions begin. Because KG had felt for many years that she had a connection with the world of spirit, had this also left her open to the threat of an entity attaching itself? Spirits can be like naughty children. If they're not getting the attention they want, they'll begin to misbehave. But this misbehavior can get frightening, dark, and even physically violent. There have been many cases where a poltergeist infestation has resulted in someone getting hurt. But thankfully, this wasn't the case with KG. But whatever was in the room with her in the townhouse in Columbus, it definitely seemed evil. It's strange that the two forms of communication which KG decided to use to try and calm the spirits in both houses worked. Speaking to the spirit in the first house and making it feel as if it was part of the group, and then using prayer in the townhouse. Did these methods of communication work because of KG's already spiritual connection to the paranormal? Is it possible that they understood her fear, her concern, her request to be left in peace? Maybe this is something that we'll never know for sure, but as far as KG is concerned, these experiences were real, in every aspect. And maybe we should take note from what happened here. Maybe if we're faced with a similar situation, we could try the same communication. A fevered prayer, a chant, give them a name, converse with them, acknowledge their presence. But if it fails, and there's every chance it could, the next subject of a short haunt,
Alice,
could be you.